For your Caesar. Cardiff City, ride with me for your Caesar. For your Caesar. Cardiff City, get litty for your Caesar. She want a diff boy. Swagger 1 point, yeah, diff boy. She want a diff boy. Swagger 1 point, yeah, diff boy. For your Caesar. Grab a little something for your Caesar. We the geezers. Swagger stone cold like freezers. She want a diff boy. She want Starvz, not Fitzroy. She want a diff boy. She want Starvz, not Fitzroy. She want a big man. Says she want a man from...
Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to the Terrace Take pre-match Port Vale versus Cardiff City show. So Evan's got work this Thursday evening, so we are going to do a pre-recorded episode, which is fine, not a problem whatsoever. And it works out all right because we are going to build up all the way to kick-off for the Cardiff City versus Port Vale, the first away trip of the season. And I'm delighted to be joined by my Terrace Take co-host, Mr. Evan James. How are you, mate? You good?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I'm a bit more skeptical of this match than I was the first game of the season. I think all that hype before, it's like you just have excitement and that's it. You're not thinking about, too far in the season. But this away game is going to be a real test to see how they handle the pressure, because we've handled it at home well, but it's a different ball game away, and it's it opens opportunity up for possibly Callum Chambers to come back, and not just that. Are we going to see a different style of play to how we did home? So it's a lot of uncertainty and feeling for it, but still optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of selection questions, which it really shows that we have got a bit of depth there, which we'll get to. But I wanted to start with, I think there's a really interesting tactical element to this today, because you've got Darren Moore likes that 3-4-3 system, and Cardiff did struggle a little bit with a Notts County who played that sort of three at the back system, and they were really physical and direct. And I think that's what Port Vale are going to be like. And in the end, or in the second half against Notts County, Brian Barry Murphy did switch to a three at the back. So I wonder whether there's even a chance that we might end up changing to match them up in a 3-4-3. But also on the other side of that, I think you're going to have a lot more direct balls. I don't expect Port Vale to continuously try to play out from the back like Peterborough did. Like Peterborough, they just wanted to play out from the back and they were going to do it no matter what. And that played right into the hands of Cardiff because our press was so well structured and so well organised. And in the end, in the first half, Peterborough repeatedly just kept giving the ball away, kicking it out of play because they couldn't deal with the pressing. Now, I do think, it's just the way football is. Port Vale will try and play out from the back at certain times, but I think there'll be more get it to the fullback, get it into the central midfielder, and then put it around the corner into the channels or put it up to the striker. And they have got a good striker as well. Do you see a scenario where Brian Barry Murphy could possibly match up his system? Because I know some people think, it's Port Vale, we should be beating Port Vale, so we shouldn't be worrying about what Port Vale are doing or who they've got. It should be all about what we can do to them.
I don't know, because I think it was the Notts County post-match interview, and it was someone asked them about you change your shape or whatever. Do you change your shape to try and match the other team or whatever? And I think you pretty much said something along the lines of, we're not so worried about the other team. We're just worried about executing our style of football to the best of our ability. And it can work it could go either way, right? In terms of you could just focus entirely on playing your style and perfecting it so much that it's just too good for any other, tactic to counter it. Or you could just be a lot more flexible and have to change. Do I think he's going to switch it up? Possibly, but I think for other reasons as well, because you got Chambers coming back in. Do you drop either the centre backs right now? I mean, I'm not saying either of them had an amazing game on Saturday, but I think, they probably deserve a chance to go and correct a few of their mistakes they made on Saturday. And again, they did really well, but I think there were a few sort of concentration errors that maybe, a better team could have taken advantage of. Again, is the penalty talk as well, stuff like that. I think that once Peterborough had that one chance that they broke through, I think it sent a bit of panic around, and it makes originally I didn't think it was a penalty, but but at the same time, I can see how the Peterborough player went down. He knew he was going to get it, so he obviously made sure he went down. But I think maybe 3 at the back might be beneficial away from home, just knowing you have a bit more security, regardless of what formation they play. But I think if you're going to put Chambers in, you're going to need 2 centre backs around him who've got some pace, especially if we're playing against like 3 at the back.
It's interesting because I actually think the players we've got suit like a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1 better. So like obviously you've got a lot of young centre backs apart from Chambers. So what it allows you to do is you could put a couple of centre backs around Chambers, and then you've got like a good combination of youth and experience. But then equally, you can bring Joel Bagan into the left-hand side of that 3 if you wanted to as well, which gives you a left-footed option. And then I think like Pacquiao is so good going forward, even though I thought on Saturday he was so good defensively. It just takes the pressure off those wing backs a little bit when they're wing backs rather than full backs from a defensive point of view. They can just go up and down. Then you've got someone like Kean Ashford, who maybe is a number 10 behind Salic, would really benefit from that. But obviously with Ruben in such good form, it's very unlikely that Kean is going to get an opportunity at number 10 anytime soon, certainly from a start. So he's going to be in a wide area, which I don't think suits him as much unless he's on the right. So if you've got like that 3-4-2, you could play like Ruben and Kean off Salic, say, for example. And you could if you did put Joel Bagan into the back 3, you could put Tanner onto the left wing back. So you'd have Tanner and Pacquiao as your wing backs, Ashford and Ruben off Salic, and then you just pick your midfield 2. And I think that is quite balanced. But on the other hand, I definitely think there's an argument to just keep the same 11. I really do. And we'll go through some of the different options because I'm hearing a lot of talk that Trott might start, which I think is really harsh on Matt Turner. But Steve Davis-Evans made a great point yesterday. He's a young lad who's just made his debut. He's absolutely buzzing. He did everything right. Yes, it would be harsh for him to be rotated. But if you take him out now, rather than waiting for him to make a mistake, then you've genuinely got him and Trott, if we assume that they're going to be fighting it out for the number 1 spot. Both of them are like confident and ready, and like it's a genuine fight for number 1. Whereas if Matt Turner stays in for a few games and then he makes a mistake or he lets a goal in that he should save, Trott almost automatically moves in front of him, and it becomes like a confidence thing. So I could see like the argument to both. I think it would be incredibly harsh if Matt Turner, Joel Colwell, people like that were not in the starting lineup. But it's the way football is. You rarely see the same 11, but they've had 5 nights rest as well. So
yeah,
let's start with the keepers. Like, where would you do you think Trott will come in? Because he's been training with us since last Wednesday. So, he's not like he's just come in yesterday.
Yeah, to be fair, right, now you said that, I would actually start Trott, and that's nothing against Matt Turner. I'm a massive fan of him, even before he had his debut. I thought for so much of the season, we've had him as our 2nd or 3rd choice keeper last season. I'm thinking, just give him a run. He didn't even get a run in the cup games, which was a shame for me, because I thought that's the opportunity to try and use him. But now that he's had that great buzz, I feel like now that he's had, about 5 days of rest now, like, naturally ego is going to be up there on first game of the season. You made your debut, you pulled off like game-winning saves, a couple of them, and there's no discredit to him at all. But I think again, he's still, but he's 23. He's not really young.
I thought he was 20.
But
sorry,
yeah. I think he's 22, 23 already, which is just crazy to think. Because of how many years he's just been sat on the bench or as third choice. But I would start Trott purely because, look, we brought him in for a reason. And I think we want to give, first of all, good first impressions. Okay, we have brought you in. We've got a promotion clause, or however you call it. If we end up getting promoted, we can have the option to buy. But again, there's nothing wrong with it. We're going to have loads of cup games. and at least Matt Turner, at the very least, is number 2. Now, he's not going to be like 2/3 and they're never really getting on. So as soon as any cup games that we got Swindon coming up, chuck him straight in that one. And again, if he continues to impress, we could just say we got 2 really good goalkeepers. And not that we want to swap every game, but, you know, it really is going to, push Nathan Trott to prove that, okay, well, look, this is what Matt Turner did in his first game. You've got to at least match that. So I'd try them both. So try Nathan Trott on tonight, and then at least he has a decision to make then BBM. Okay, well, which one am I going to go for now? Because we got a lot of games this season, a lot of cup games as well. So I don't think Matt Turner's going to miss out that much. I think he'd still be buzzing the fact that he's at least made his debut. So I would go with Trott.
Yeah, and you still got Jack Alnwick in there as well, which is insane that he's gone from captain to third choice, but managers like what they like, don't they? I'm sort of really on the fence with it. I wouldn't drop Matt Turner, but then I also so my counter argument to that would be, well, no, keep Matt Turner. He deserves to keep his spot. See if he can build on that. And Nathan Trott can play against Swindon on Tuesday. So, you can do it both ways, I guess. But I do also accept that he's going to be absolutely buzzing. He's going to be, 10 foot tall, etc. And, maybe just bringing him back down to earth a little bit is not the worst thing. Not in a dig to him, just to keep him, keep anyone working. And I guess you could say that about, Joel Colwell. You've got David Turner coming back into the squad. You'd think Turnbull, sorry, he's back in. He's back in, within the group and stuff. Then you've also got Eli King, who's a bit more combative and physical, and probably more of he can play as a number 8, but he's a bit more defensive, more of a double pivot number 8 rather than what they did with the Colwell brothers and played them in front of Wintle. And I think it's just ultimately the midfield will come down to one thing. It will come down to whether Brian Barry Murphy wants to play a single pivot in every game and have 2 number 8s who are just going to press and win the ball back and be really aggressive, or whether he's going to be a bit like what Craig Bellamy does, where at home, single pivot, 2 really attacking number 8s and go dominate teams. And then away from home, he changes it up a little bit. And if he changes it up a little bit, you have a few options. You could Joel Colwell's perfectly capable of playing more of a reserved sort of number 8 next to Wintle. You've got Eli King, who could sit next to him and just be a very combative number 8, but still decent on the ball. Or you can bring in David Turnbull, who's going to give you much more control in possession, but probably isn't as aggressive in his tackling and his pressing. So you've got those 3 options, and I'm sure there's probably other options as well, but those are the sort of main 3 for me. And then I suppose you've got one more option, which is actually Callum Chambers does come in, but he comes in midfield, and you either put him in there with Wintle, or you drop Wintle to the bench and you bring, you have Callum Chambers alongside one of the others. It's fascinating to see. Personally, I don't think Callum Chambers comes in as midfielder. I think if he was going to play, or if he had him in mind for midfield, he'd have played there at least once in pre-season, and he didn't. He played centre-back every time. What would you do with the midfield? And then what would you think the manager will do with the midfield?
I think if you're going to change, if you're going to add Callum Chambers in, one of the back 4's got to go, regardless of whether we play a 3 at the back, 5 at the back, 4. Because, like you said earlier as well, playing the wing backs, you could put Kapaki on the right and then Tan on the left, or Bagan on the left even. But then that's probably going to leave out either Kian Ashford or someone else. So I don't know. I really, because I have no clue about Port Vale. I only know a tiny bit about their manager, and that we were very, very loosely linked to him, because I think Rhys said that we would quite like him. But I don't know. See, what's screaming at me is go with the same back 4.
Yeah, I think that. So funny enough,
yeah.
Just sorry to interrupt you. I said this on, I think it was a show Monday night. I can't remember which show it was. Do so many, but one of the shows earlier this week, we were sort of discussing. I was and the chat was discussing whether actually, even though Callum Chambers is captain, it wouldn't be the worst thing for him to be on the bench to one sort of show everybody that no, just because everybody's got to earn their place. And whilst Fish and Lawler weren't faultless, they were decent. They made a lot of important blocks and tackles, and Dylan Lawler's passing was a massive asset. Will Fish won countless headers and blocks, especially towards the end of the game, just throwing their body on the line to, stop shots and stuff. So actually, maybe individually they made a few little things. Like Dylan struggled a little bit after his yellow card. Will Fish was a little bit sloppy with his short passing into the midfield. But apart from that, outside of those little things, or like the things that they need to improve, outside of that, they were actually all right. And maybe you give them a bit of confidence by going, do you know what? It wasn't perfect. It was the first game of the season, a bit rusty, etc. But you were all right. And Callum Chambers has got to earn his spot.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think even as a captain, you've got to earn your spot. I think as well, we can be a bit harsh, but like a position like centre back or striker, or centre back, striker, and goalkeeper are the three sort of positions for me that if you mess up in, you're gonna know about it. If you miss a sitter as a striker, the man just probably gonna look to bench you unless you just come on, or the fans will be like, oh, groaning, how has he missed that? Goalkeeper makes a mistake like Horvath did against Burnley. It's like it's very unforgiving. If a centre back gives the ball away, I mean, you haven't got any other defenders then really. So it's like those three positions are going to be high pressure no matter what kind of game you play. And to be fair, right, I watched the Luton, I wish I didn't, but I watched the Luton versus Wimbledon game. And that was like, there was so much nothing happening in that game. It's just two teams defending because they didn't want to embarrass themselves in the first game. And I think with so much unknown at the start of the season, you kind of sort of maybe think the first half was just a bit of like a testing period and, taking out the sting of the game for both teams. And I think, you said give the same back four a bit of confidence, or show confidence in them by sticking with it. Like I say, you said as well, you can always bring on Chambers or anyone else and change the system then if it needs to. But I think I would honestly keep the same 11 now. More I think about it, because there's so many variables and unknown factors still. We don't really know what the weak part is yet. I mean, we haven't tested the players enough to get reliable data to say like, okay, this is still a big problem. Yes, I'm sure we know we need certain players in to add more depth. But at the same time, it's hard to criticize a win at the moment, even though I think there was still we were a bit on edge. I thought we could have. I think our finishing really in the final thirds could really put our centre backs at ease. We had so many more chances. We should have really at least got on target, and that would have put the centre backs a lot more at ease, I think. So, I think it goes both ways, but I would be happy with the same 11.
So I've got a couple of hot takes, right? I think and this is not what I would do necessarily. This is what I think the manager will do. I think the manager may start with Yusuf Salic on the bench. I think we might go with Callum Robinson or Isaac Davis as a number 9, and just kind of try and work it, like try and get in behind them a bit. But I don't know. Like, part of me thinks that, and then part of me thinks, well, no, Paul Vale are going to sit deep, and they're going to kind of, that's where Yusuf Salic will be good, because he's really good at linking the play and bringing other players into it, and he presses like a madman. But it's it's like a little bit of a thing which is just playing in my mind, because the one thing when you play 3 at the back is if your opposition are really good in the transition, which I think Cardiff are, they're good at winning the ball back high up the pitch and then moving it quickly. Having someone like Callum Robinson or Isaac Davis who can get down the channels quickly as soon as you've won the ball could be a real handy little tool. But yeah, I just don't know whether he might just surprise a few of us with his selection, because there's so many options. You've got the centre backs. Does Chambers come in? Does he not? And if he does come in, who's dropping out? Like, I tend to think that it'll probably be Lawler who drops out, but I'm not convinced that's the best thing, because I thought in pre-season our best centre back pairing was Chambers and Lawler as a 2. But I also quite like Will Fish's defensive attributes, And then Jesper Darland probably had his best cameo for probably 12 months. Like, so you could see Chambers and Darland that he just goes completely fresh. A lot of it will depend on, I did a video on Kevin Gibbons yesterday, who's the head of performance. And a big part of his job is, one is getting the players fit enough to press for 90 minutes in lots of explosive sprinting and blah, blah, blah. But it's also checking on their recovery. And you got to wonder, with such a young squad, how are they feeling since Saturday? Like Joel Colwell, for instance, covered God knows how much ground on Saturday. Is he, once the adrenaline went and everything, were his legs aching? He had a bit of cramp at the end of a game. So it's not just the tactical side of it, it's also the recovery side of it. Right, we'll come back to the sort of that side of the lineup. Wingers, would you make any changes out wide, or would you keep Ashford in there and give him another chance, or would you switch it up? Would you get Tanner out on the left? Would you put Ashford on the right? Would you bring Isaac Davis or Chris Willock in?
I want to see Ashford play on the right. I really do. I think, like you said, he was most effective as a right winger, because you'd always look for that cross, then you'd always look for the striker. And I feel like when he's on the left, he's a little bit out of ideas. I mean, he will make some link-up play and all that, but he didn't really get involved as much as I thought in the first game. I thought he would really start sharp. And again, it's so harsh to be first game and all that, but I don't know. I think he's wasted it on the left a bit, unless he plays in the middle. And I think, again, I know, Ruben Colwell can do that, but there can be times of rotations, and even sometimes, as much as they don't really like it, Colwell can sink a bit deeper to pick up the ball, and maybe that's where Ashford fills in, Capaccio pushes forward. There's so many different variations you can have. I think the best we're going to get is Ashford on the right wing, and then the left wing is either going to be, your Isaac Davis, or even Ollie Tanner. I want to see on the left as well. I want to see standard wingers for once, just because, right, if we're going to play Salak up front, I want a left foot on the left side and the right foot on the right side. Get a nice cross in, because you saw when Tanner whipped that cross in his right foot, Salak got a header. Unfortunately, it went straight to the keeper, and it was a decent save anyway. But he's a tall keeper, he was, and another day that could have been a goal, like a slight adjustment, the placement of the cross or the head, and it would have gone in. And it's a shame, really, that was one of the few crosses that actually almost came off. So yeah, I would I would play the same. If I would play the same 11, I'd definitely swap the wingers just on the other side. I think, again, whilst people were really praising Tanner, and I'm glad we actually got him a contract extension, I still felt like he could have done a bit more, a bit faster, maybe just whipped in more crosses. Maybe that was the only thing. He had the beating of his man all the time, but I think it was just the speed decision making. But I understand why they're doing it, because they're letting players get forward. But for me, I just felt like, and the fans were definitely a bit, on the same wavelength, we could have just whipped in a few crosses or took on that man a bit sooner, because Peterborough, all they looked like they were doing was just defending 5 at the back for most of the game.
Yeah, I think with Tanner as well, is because he's left, he would rather have it on his left foot, right? So he's always going to sort of cut in, but it also allows the runners like Capaccio and Joel Colwell to get in behind. So I can see the benefits of both. And like I discussed this with Omar Rhys about inverted wingers, because it is a bit of a pet hate of mine, because I think Tanner is, if you put him on the left, tell him to do exactly what he does, stay right on the touchline, make the pitch big. But his first touch is so good when he gets his switch to him, and it's such a difficult skill, like kill the ball and then just run, like go at the fullback. You've isolated the fullback for a reason. Like, I do get there's other reasons to shift play and create space and move people out of position, but the kind of basic fundamental of it is you've isolated your winger one-on-one with the fullback. There's no midfielder to double up on you. Like, he's got him one-on-one. So it's like, if he's on the left, run at him, beat him, whip it in. Salic is going to be there. Defenders are facing their own goal. It's like the hardest sort of ball to defend because they're facing the wrong way. It just seems like a no-brainer to me. But, yeah, modern football, I suppose. I do think we see Isaac Davis, I got to say. As much as I would like to see Keane on the right, I think Keane struggled a little bit with the physicality. But I did feel sorry for him, and I said this in one of the videos I did post-match. On the right-hand side, you've got Kipakio, who's like, as soon as we get a ball, he's bombing up, trying to create width, make the pitch big. He's overlapping, underlapping. Whereas Bagan is inverting into the midfield alongside Wintle, or he's tucking into the space between Kian and Ruben to create an overload, which is also, fine, and that's part of the tactical build-up and shape and all that. But what it does is you end up with, and plus on the other side, you've got Joel Colwell, who's doing the same as Kipakio, making runs beyond the defence to receive the ball on the run. Whereas on the left, you've got Bagan tucking in, Ruben generally dropping into like pockets of space to do his thing, and Kian is almost doing the same thing. So the three of them are almost in similar areas, or at least have got similar ideas. None of them are really running beyond the defender to create that sort of line-breaking run. Ruben did it a few times, but he didn't do it a lot because that's not really what he's there. He wants those pockets of space. He wants to get a ball on the edge of the box to get a shot off. So I think if you put Isaac on the left, then all of that sort of comes together a little bit better, because Bagan inverts, Ruben does his thing, and Isaac will be the one to stretch and run in behind. And then his pressing is also outstanding. So I think Isaac Davis will come in on the left for me, and I think it's probably a good shout. Again, I think Chris Willock would have the same problem.
Yeah.
And I know Chris Willock gets a lot of stick from people, and I get that. I get why as well. But actually on Saturday, he did a lot. He did a lot of defensive work really well. Just when Peterborough were on top, he really supported Bagan and gave him a lot of protection, and he was right back in there, getting stuck in. So you got to give him credit for that. Do you think you can see Isaac starting?
Oh God, of course my throat dries up as soon as I start talking. But yeah, no. 1 second, let me just clear my throat.
It's all right. So Isaac Davis basically.
Isaac Davis. Yeah, I see. I was just, as you were talking, I was just looking at building a lineup, what three at the back could look like, and at the end, I'll give you my quick prediction or what I would do. But Isaac Davis, I can kind of see if we were to go 3-5-2, I would say I'll put him and Salek up front as two people who are going to press the hell out of their defense, because you saw I think Isaac Davis, and basically his role tonight, if he does play, will be what Salek basically did, just absolutely terrorizing the defense, pressing them, because I feel like Salek went a bit unnoticed because he did a lot of the dirty work on Saturday. That kind of went unnoticed. He pressed the hell out of everyone, and he won quite a few balls because of that. And whilst he didn't score, he allowed other people to get involved and score. I think Isaac Davis kind of falls into that same bracket right now in terms of he can score and he will score if you give him the chance. But I find a lot of the work he does is literally just running out of defense, and sometimes that is your role. The manager might instruct someone to come on, be like, look, this is what you're going to do. You're just going to press the defenders. And I think Robinson was kind of a similar thing on Saturday. I know Robinson and Isaac Davis are quite different players in their own way, but that's the kind of roles I see them two playing. But if you put Isaac on to start, which I probably would, he's just got pace that other players haven't, hasn't he? I mean, I used to think Tanner's fast, but like Isaac Davis is a new level. And I don't think we have many really slow players in our squad. But if you want someone to make defenders panic, I would chuck him out on the wing, honestly, or either the wing on the left wing, or you would start someone else there and just have him up front and just press the hell out of them. Because whilst he isn't the tallest lad, he's definitely bulked up a bit. He's got a lot stronger in the last 2 seasons, if you to look back when he originally had that injury. So yeah, I fancy him starting, to be fair, but I also wouldn't be against starting Robinson to see what he can do from the start, because we're so used to him coming off the bench. And you said, you had a hot take that he might bench Salek, and I wouldn't be against that, because at least then you can bring him on at any point. I think if we want to go for a more mobile team and we're not really going to focus on whipping crosses in, I would honestly start both Robinson and Isaac. Again, hot take, but I don't know. I think I haven't really seen them work together that much, so it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think so. A couple of things with that. I I think Robinson lost his head a little bit on Saturday after he missed that chance. And Ruben had to go at him, and the manager had to go at him because he wasn't really working hard. So I wouldn't like, I can see the benefit of starting him, but I would be quite shocked if he's got to start off the back of that. However, what I will say is, while this transfer window is open, just looking at it as a broader thing, whilst the transfer window is open, I'm probably not going to rotate Salic just in case he gets upset.
Fair
and
enough,
I know
yeah.
that shouldn't be the thinking, but so far he's been very, very sort of, I'm staying, I'm not interested in going, etc. So let's not tempt fate by rotating him. Yeah. So unless he's got a knock or something, probably gonna just start him. And then, having a target man with lots of legs around him away from home is decent anyway. But I just think Isaac Davis's pressing away from home on the left could be really strong. And where they've got the three at the back, if their wing backs are not really switched on, Isaac could get in behind and down that wide area and exploit that, pretty quickly, because, like you say, he's so quick. So that is another sort of weapon that Cardiff have. On the Peterborough side of things, just one or two sort of players who I think we just need to be a little bit aware of. You've got George Byers, who's a very experienced footballer.
Oh, do you mean Port Vale? Sorry.
Was this you
said Peterborough.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if you were reflecting on that.
No, Port Vale. So Port Vale tonight, sorry. Really. George Byers has been captain because Garrity is injured. He's a very experienced player, ex-Jack. Played for them 56 times, but he's been around the block. He's 29 years old, but he is a good footballer. Like, he's good on the ball. Probably isn't like the quickest, but he's got a quick mind, if that makes sense. So you've got him. I think the word on the street, at least in the Port Vale side of things, is that Jaden Shipley is out injured. I think he went off on the weekend, but he's another one who's quite dangerous. Finds like little pockets of space, and I quite Jordan Shipley. Sorry, I think I said Jaden. Jordan Shipley, he's another one who's quite experienced. Played at Coventry like over 130 times, Shrewsbury Town, but again, not really like superstars that you're sort of scared of, but like they're just footballers who are good at this level, who, if you're not switched on, they can take advantage of it. The one who I think, and this is why I think Chambers does start, is they've got a player up front called Terrace. Scored 15 goals last year and when they got promoted, and as sort of looking sharp in pre-season. He's a really, he's a big lad, but he does, if you give him a chance, he will score. He's represented Switzerland up to under 19 level. He's 23 now. Started his football career at Brighton and has kind of done the rounds on loan, Salford, Cambridge, Scotland, and then he's been at Aldershot for a season, and then he was at Port Vale last year where he scored 15 in all competitions in 39 games, I think it was. So that's a decent record. It's like a goal every other game, more or less. So we need to be just aware of these those little things. Like, not saying that we need to do loads of sessions on Terrace or Byers and we need to target them, but it's just being aware of who your opponents are, isn't it? And who like the danger men are. And I know it's like, if you've got a winger who's all right, he might not be that dangerous, but if you get him on his left foot 20 yards out, he will shoot and he's pretty accurate. Then you try and show him on his right foot all the time. It's just those little details. And I think Brian Barry Murphy and Lee Riley are very good at the details. So I think we'll be prepared for any dangers that Port Vale have. But ultimately, mate, I kind of think if we press like we did in the first half on Saturday and the second half, if we play at that intensity, that speed, and we're just a little sharper with the final ball, I also have this feeling that we could kind of blow teams away. like Port Vale and Peterborough. Like I think we should have been a couple up at halftime against Peterborough, but it was our final ball that let us down. Everything up to the final ball, I thought was excellent, and then it was just like that final ball that was a bit overhit, underhit, whatever it may be. Because I thought the intensity was pretty insane. We did it for 95 minutes, just pressing.
I didn't think we really had the fitness, but I think again it goes back to what I said earlier. It's like if you don't score, put away those chances when you get the chance. It's just more pressuring defenders to perform because, like, I mean, like we I have been very critical of certain players, but like the one thing I give Willock a lot of credit for is that even though I didn't fancy him going forward, and I haven't for a long time, I think he was nice to see that he was doing his defensive duties, and it just takes that pressure off defenders because they're already up against enough. I mean, Christ, that's only one game, and to be fair, Peterborough didn't really have any answers going forward. They had a couple of fast breaks where we thought they might do something with this, but like even their goalkeepers kicking, like you kick it out of play half the time. I mean, you know what I mean? Like the long balls out to wide, and everyone just goes way, like because we were taking the mick out of, and not just him. He was as a massive keeper, and he made some good saves. Like, but the distribution, like to pass out wide or anything to try and initiate a counter, half the time it didn't even come off for them. So we didn't even get to see them counter. So we still, I know it was a good performance from us, right? But I think we got a bit lucky in terms of like Peterborough just did not look like they wanted any part of the physical side. They didn't. They still tried to play at the back like we tried to do, even though we had two players on their 18-yard box ready to press them as soon as. And we did this all last season. It frustrated the hell out of me, right? Teams that press us, they do the exact same thing what we do this season. Two centre halves or two people up front on the 18-yard box. As soon as the goalkeeper kicks out wide to their centre back and they're still inside the box, we would just be pressed, and now we're doing that to other teams. But it absolutely infuriated me last season when we still insisted to pass out from the back when we knew other teams were going to press us so much. So I think we need to keep that sort of system going now, where we just press them to death as soon as possible and hopefully get an early goal so that we deflate them. And again, I know it's easy to say like, oh yeah, let's just score 3 goals in the first half. Obviously, that's not as simple. It's easier said than done. But I think it is. You've got to take this thing out of the game early against certain teams, especially away from home, because the fans will turn against them, and the home fans will turn against the crowd. We saw it against teams like Bristol, especially. They were getting booed by halftime, and then I think we ended up drawing in the end as one of Omar's first games. But I think it's just we can't. Now we know that we can basically press for 90 minutes, and we've got the fitness to, albeit we don't want to get anyone injured. But the fact we can do it, there's no saying that we can't start the same way like we did on Saturday. I just pray that, we don't. I pray that we at least put away a few of the chances we create, because finishing has been a problem for many years now. And then we always wonder why our defence is falling apart. It's because they've been faced with chance after chance, defending, to defend a 0-0 draw. So I'm hoping that we have a bit more, I don't know what's the word, a bit more hunger or a bit more desire to try and score early, maybe, so we at least put the pressure off some of our defence.
Yeah, I think it would be nice, wouldn't it, instead of being the away team and settling in and keeping possession and trying to quieten the Port Vale crowd down. It would be nice if we just went at Port Vale like we did on Saturday and tried to quieten them down that way.
First 15 minutes, if we score
just
the first
really
15,
get at them and get an early goal, I think there's a chance Port Vale fall apart. Whereas the longer it stays 0-0, their crowd will get more and more up for it. It's a big game for them. Their fans are going to be up for it. But there's also 2,500 Cardiff fans there. So it's like, ultimately, I do think it's going to come down to what Brian Barry Murphy in his head, like, is he going to play that 4-3-3 with a single pivot? That's his system. And unless he needs to change it for a specific reason, he's going to go with that every week and fit the personnel in depending on who's fit and stuff like that. Or if he's going to alter it a little bit to try and get a bit more control of possession. Because I think at home, you tend to get a bit more possession anyway, and you're a bit more urgent with it. And I guess we won't know until tonight because, pre-season, the opposition that we played outside of QPR were all teams that we were probably going to dominate possession largely anyway. Whereas, and then QPR, we just dominated just generally. Like, that was a very good performance. So we don't really know how he's going to set up in these away games. I think Cardiff should have too much quality overall. When you look at the 11 that we had Saturday, I think we both agree that we'd be happy if that 11 is the same 11. But then you look at the bench that was there Saturday, plus Chambers and Turnbull and Trott. It's like there's a lot of options for the manager the only positions he can't really change is left back and right back. Outside that, he could realistically change all the positions and we could still be strong. You could have Darland and Chambers at centre back. I think that'd be fine. You could have Eli King come in for Wintle. You could have David Turnbull come in for Joel Colwell. You could have Isaac Davis and Willock be the wingers. You could have Callum Robinson through the middle. Like, do you see what I mean? Like, you could literally change the whole team and it would still function. It might not be as good, but there's still good footballers there. So with that depth, I think he's got a lot of options and it'll just come down to what it comes down to, innit?
Yeah, I mean, it's still like first game occasion, isn't it? Because the first game at home we've done, but now it's the first away game. It's another. I'm not trying to say the occasion affects it completely, but it will, because you're not going to have the same fan base away from home as you're going to get the diehard away fans who travel everywhere across the country, but it's not because they're going to be jammed in probably one corner or less than a quarter of the stadium. And then you're going to have the Port Vale fans who, if it's still 0-0 by 20 minutes, they're going to be singing and dancing because it's like, we're not losing yet. Or, but we did that as well. Like, I mean? We went to the Premier League, and when it was like 0-0 against Chelsea at home, or when we took the lead against Chelsea, like the places were bouncing away from home. And it was like, when you face big teams and you haven't conceded the first 20 minutes, and you think like, hang on, we should be like 3-0 down against like Man City or something like that. Like it's just picking random teams. It's like that's going to get through to the fans. Feel like, we've got a chance in this. And even if you end up losing the game or drawing the game, that team that ends up losing, they're still going to be like, oh, I'm quite happy we only lost 1-0 to Cardiff. I thought we were going to get thrashed. Or, what I mean? Like deep down inside, they're probably thinking, oh no, Cardiff gonna. We see what they did to Peterborough, right? I just hope we don't lose by 4-0. Because that's what some fans will think, but the rest of them will be just bouncing, thinking like, oh, you know what? They still haven't scored yet, and it's been so many. We can handle this, and that's what we don't want to let happen for that team. Because for too much, we've been that team that just has hung on to a 0-0 draw or a 1-0 lead. So I hope we do have the same intensity. I'm sure we will as well. So that's why the only thing I would change would probably be bring in Chambers for Fish. Just because I think we could do with a bit of more experience away from home, and then possibly you could make the argument about the keeper change. But again, I wouldn't be against the same 11 because you can't really fault it.
And I think one of our problems last year was that we kept chopping and changing. We kept chopping and changing the centre backs. We kept chopping and changing the keeper. We kept chopping, like there was no continuity.
No.
Now, if Callum Chambers and Dylan Lawler is the idea for this season, I would get them in on Tuesday tonight, and I would just get them playing together. And I would, if Matt Turner is in his head is the number one, then keep him in and let's get as much continuity as possible. I would rather, make 1-2 changes, because players are back, or so. For instance, Callum Chambers, right? Okay, he's club captain. He wants to bring him in. Okay, fine. Bring him in alongside Lawler. If he wants to change Kean for Isaac, maybe that's fine. But like, try and keep it generally the same 11 to let those players build momentum. It was 2-1. I thought was very kind to Peterborough.
Yeah,
because outside of the last 5-10 minutes, Peterborough offered nothing going forward. I didn't think they troubled us whatsoever. And I think with a better final ball, we would have and could have been a few. Ruben could have had 4 goals on the weekend. I know like two of those is like a free kick which he scores, but also the long ranger only just missed, and then he had a header which he hit with his shoulder, which only just went wide, which was like a flick at the near post. He had the one in the first half which he should have scored early on when it got pulled back to him, and he side foots it, and it just comes off his heel, and I think it went out for a corner, like a goal kick. He should have scored that. And then the one in the second half, which he sort of hit first time from the edge of the box, and he just went straight at the keeper. Like, if that's either side of the keeper, that's a goal. So, but it was instinct, wasn't it? It was fired into him, and he just sort of hit it first time. But on another day, they go in, and you're like, wow. So it's one of those where we just got to be a bit more clinical. Salic probably should have scored that header as well, which is another thing.
I think it's just a case of getting the shots off. Whether I know how it is, right? Because we always feel like we need an extra 2 touches or we need an extra pass. I get the idea behind that, because you want to give it to someone who's got a less contested shot. But at the same time, we like I saw some shots against on Saturday. You could tell like some of them were just instructed, when you get the chance, take the shot, don't take the extra touch. And sometimes, obviously, that can not do you any favors because you feel like the ball's a bit bobbling and you could feel like you have time to control it. Sometimes you just need to hit the ball like at the keeper, or not at the keeper, you know what I mean? Just make him, test him, see how much he's actually going to reach for it, because I feel like we just don't test the keepers enough. Even if they're just narrowly missing it, the keeper's going to have to make some kind of effort to dive. We want to show that we're at least constantly putting them under pressure and making them commit to defending us, because we'll take too many touches, and then by that chance, the sting of the attack's already over. Like, the defenders have already got back and adjusted. I feel like just getting loads of shots off early off. Obviously, you want to score, but mainly getting them on target is the main thing first of all, just to keep the pressure on them. Because again, like the fans are going to be like, they're going to be on edge there. They're going to be like, oh god, and almost hanging on for their life in a way. And when you create that kind of pressure, even mentally for them, it is going to shake up the defenders a bit. Like, whilst early goals would be nice, I think the main thing is we just constantly keep the pressure on them. And it was nice to see as well, whilst it is risky, how high our defensive backline was once we were pressing. God, yeah. Like, they were all in the attacking half. I've never seen that from Cardiff before. I've never seen that even from other champion. I've never seen that from other champions. The opposite,
mate. Yeah,
exactly.
We're always so deep and we're always backing off. My son said that, like, we just sort of closed the gap. They had a free kick halfway inside their half, and we were on the halfway line. And so it was like so condensed. And, it was obvious they were going to drop it in behind, but we stayed high and said to them, like, right, if you can stay on side, crack on. And then they dropped then as the free kick came. But it was like we were very much trying to keep them on the back foot. And I'd love that just to be our game plan in all season, is just keep teams on the back foot by continually just hunting in packs and pressing. I would think it'd be so refreshing if that literally is his out of possession plan, is like just run your guts out and just hunt the ball and win it back as quick as you can. And, even if you can only do it for an hour, it's okay, because we'll bring someone else on then for you, give you a rest, who they'll then take over that same sort of attitude and philosophy. I mean, that would be, I got to say, after what we've watched for the last couple of seasons, it would be so refreshing to have that sort of mindset, like, but I guess we'll see, mate. It's interesting how those selection issues will sort of pan out. So, first of all, then, tell me your predicted lineup. So this is what you think Brian Barry Murphy will do.
I think you take the 11 that played Saturday, you change the keepers, not because I feel like Turner's been amazing, but I think you go with the same 11, but you put in Trott for Turner, and then you probably put in Chambers for Fish. I think, again, Fish had a good game, but I think it took him a bit more time. And again, I think Lawler's the same thing. But the reason I keep Lawler in is specifically because of contractual things, and because, I've just used him as much as we can, because chances are if he goes, right, I'd rather him go on a free and just use him for the season than let him go cheap in January or now. Like, so I think you play Chambers and Lawler as a centre back pairing, and then just put Trott in instead of Turner. Apart from that, I'll keep the same 11, but I want to see Ashford on the right and Tan on the left. The reason why I'm not benching Ashford and putting Isaac in is because I want to. I think it was a bit unfair. I want to see what Ashford can do in his most natural position where he's going to be most effective. I think it's like basically putting a centre mid in centre back and saying, "Oh, well, I'm benching you because you didn't have a good game." Now I think it literally is that kind of extreme for me. So I want to see Ashford play on the right, and yeah, just again the same exact thing. Like Salah did so much pressing and won so much back. I feel like it went unnoticed a bit. We just got to keep doing what we did against Peterborough, but we just got to know that Port Vale are probably going to be a bit more deadly on the counter attack than Peterborough are. So it's just something to be aware of. But again, it's a high risk, high reward game, so that's why I would go with.
Yeah. So my predicted lineup would be Matt Hearn. No, I do think he's going to put Trott in goal. I got to be honest. So if we're going on what we think the manager's going to do, Trott in goal, Bagan, Capacchio as the fullbacks. I think Chambers. I got a feeling it might be Darland. It wouldn't be what I would do. I would go Chambers and Lawler, but I have a feeling that he's going to go. I think he's going to go Chambers and Darland. I think he'll go Isaac on the left, Tanner on the right, Salic up front, Ruben Ryan Wintle. I think Joel Colwell retains his place, but I won't be shocked if he rotates him, just because. But I think it'll be really harsh. I thought Joel Colwell was so good, and I also think, by the way, from a tactical side of it, Joel Colwell and Ryan Wintle are vital to the way this system and the way we want to play works. If you take Joel out, I don't think anyone else offers the same energy and legs. So then the system automatically becomes different. Maybe Eli King could do it, but I think Eli's better as like in the Wintle role. But yeah, what's your predicted score, mate?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 1-0 to Cardiff. I don't know. Do I see us keep the clean sheet though? I'm just gonna say 1-0. I think we'll probably get a goal early in the first half, but I don't know if we're gonna be able to. I don't know. At the moment, I haven't seen enough clinical finishing to say that. I mean, one of the goals we scored is a free kick, which is amazing. But if we hadn't scored that free kick, it's probably looking 1-1 at best. So I think we could have got a few more goals against Peterborough. So I'm just going to say a safe 1-0. But when is it ever safe when you're only a goal up? So
yeah, so I think in my Dragon Sports preview, I think I went 2-1 Cardiff. I'm going to go for a clean sheet. Captain back in. I think new keeper. I'm going to say clean sheet. And I'm going to be positive. I'm going to say Cardiff 3-0. I think Brian Barry Murphy is the second coming. So that's what I'm going to go positive. And then maybe after today's game, I'll go back to crash down to reality, and my predictions will be less optimistic. But
I just get more dramatic.
I just thought that I just thought that the performance on Saturday was so good, and I just think if we mirror that performance against Port Vale, I honestly don't think Port Vale will be able to cope with it any better than what Peterborough did.
Fair point, yeah.
I worry more if we change our sort of setup slightly because we're away from home, because I haven't seen that yet. So obviously I don't know. I don't know if that'll be any better or any good or whatever. It's kind of one of them, but there we go, mate. It is what it is. Right then, we are literally 5 minutes from kickoff. So Evan, enjoy the game. Listening from work, I'm assuming.
I wouldn't even have my phone on me. So
yeah,
I know.
I'll have to catch the highlights later and the post-match show with me after the game as well. So make sure you tune into that. I'll be back after the game. live probably about 15 minutes or so after the game, maybe 20. I've got to do something for Dragon Sports first, and then I'll be live to give us the lowdown, the immediate reaction. It won't be a super long one because it's going to be late, but it'll be a half hour or so. Yeah. Sweet. Nice one. Evan, a pleasure as always, mate. And don't forget, Saturday, 1927 Club. Sunday, Omar Risa Part 1. Monday, Omar Risa Part 2. In a bit.
For your Caesar. Cardiff City, ride with me for your Caesar.